In this video, we will be making these food-colored dyed wood button pendants and brooches. They're a fun project that can be a more eco-friendly alternative to plastic buttons. So let's get started by reviewing the supplies and tools we'll need. Wood buttons. Paper bowls. Small bowls. Water and vinegar. Measuring glass. Food coloring. Toothpicks. Paper towels. Hemp cord, ruler, scissors, glue, chain nose pliers, safety pins, and jewelry findings. Step 1. Sort buttons. The first thing we want to do is sort our buttons. I purchased a variety pack, so it came with a few different types. I'm removing these that have a glossy seal or pattern because they won't absorb the food dye, as well as these which are unfinished. Next, you want to sort by size so that we have large, medium, small, and extra small buttons. This process might take a while, but will make assembling a lot easier. Step 2. Arrange flowers. Now we are going to create a flower pattern. Select a large button to act as the base. If one side has a curve, place it face down so that the flat side is upward. Next, select some extra small buttons. I'm going to pick out 5. Once selected, arrange them around the center of the button. Right now we are just doing this to know which buttons to dye what color, so don't worry if you have a hard time keeping them on. Finally, select one slightly larger button to place on top. Depending on what combinations you choose, you can create flowers with 4, 5, 6, or even 7 petals. It's totally up to you. Step 3. Dye buttons. Take a small bowl and fill it with about 2 tablespoons of warm water. You can also add a little splash of distilled white vinegar, about half a tablespoon. Now add as many drops of food dye as you want, remembering that the more you add, the more concentrated your solution will be. I'm going to put in 10 drops. If you can find it, you can also use eco-friendly dyes. Just note that colors and results may vary. Mix your solution with the toothpick, then repeat for any other colors you desire. Then place your buttons in the respective dyes and leave for about 30 minutes. After the time has passed, take them out by using a toothpick and let them dry onto a paper towel. Let them dry completely before handling. You can also mix your dyes to create other colors like orange and purple. Remember that the longer or shorter you leave your buttons in their solution, the more or less saturated the color will be. Don't be afraid to experiment. Step 4. Attach cord. Up until this point, the steps for pendants and brooches have been the same, but this is the point where they begin to deviate. If you are making a brooch, unspool about 6 inches of your cord and snip it with a pair of scissors. Then take your base button and thread the cord into one of the button's holes from the underside, making sure that the flat side is facing towards you. Then thread the cord into the exact opposite hole. Pull it through so that the 2 ends are even and set aside. If you're making a pendant, spool and cut 24 inches of cord. You can shorten or lengthen this measurement per your taste. Then thread through one hole with the curved side facing towards you, but instead of going through the opposite hole, put it in an adjacent hole. Now center the cord and flip to the other side. Take the bottom left cord and put the end into the top left hole, and the bottom right cord into the top right. When you look back around, you'll see how the cord holds the button. Doing it this way will help it lay better as a pendant. Step 5. Glue buttons. Now we are going to glue on our buttons. Take a petal and squeeze a bit of glue onto the back and place it onto the base. Repeat with the other petals and then adjust them while the glue is still wet. I like to use a tacky glue because it holds onto the base better while adjusting, but you can use regular glue too. Then let it dry in place. Now take the center piece and glue it down as well. Step 6. Attach hardware. To create a brooch, Find a safety pin that is about the same size or smaller than the diameter of your base button and line it up with the back of the brooch and open the pin. Take one end of the cord and wrap it around the pin a few times, being careful not to prick yourself with the tip. Do the same on the other side. With the two sides wrapped, tie the two ends together in a double knot and then trim. To create a necklace, start by threading the end of your cord into a clamshell bead tip. Then thread the same end into a crimp bead and with a pair of chain-nosed pliers, crimp it down. Trim the end of the cord and close the end of the clamshell. Then temporarily open the end of the hook and feed in a lobster clasp, before closing it up again. Repeat the same steps on the other end, but instead of feeding a lobster clasp, use a jump ring instead. And that's how you make wood button flower pendants and brooches. Try using different colored dies and button configurations, but please note that since this is a homemade dyeing project, there is a possibility that the food dye could run if the jewelry were submerged in water. If you're concerned, you can always coat it with a sealer. You can also do this project by keeping the buttons undyed for a natural look. And if you have an Instagram or Twitter, send me pics of your creations. I'd love to see your work.